Welcome back to In Depth with Academia. I'm your host, Richard Price. Yep, CEO of academia.edu, and generally a very curious person about how academic research kind of shapes the ways we look at old mysteries and honestly, even ourselves. Now, before we really dive in, just a quick reminder what I'll share today is presented neutrally. I'm not endorsing, I'm not debunking. My job is to guide you through the ideas, the arguments, and hopefully leave you with something intriguing to think about. So our paper today, oh, this one's cool, comes from Jake Weaver. The title is The Sator Square, a Roman palindrome with a silent Hebrew whisper. At first glance, that sounds pretty mysterious, right? But if you've ever stumbled across old Latin inscriptions or puzzles, this one's sort of a classic. 5 words, each 5 letters. Reads the same every direction. It's almost, I don't know, mystical, something out of a Dan Brown novel, except way older and with a lot more, academic caution. Let's go straight to the core question of Jake's paper. Basically, Weaver asks, could this ancient Roman word, square harbor, a quieter, kind of hidden Hebrew influence? What if Jewish communities in Pompeii left little traces of their beliefs? Not by big signs or overt scriptures, but just embedding hints in Latin puzzle style. And this is the fun part, could those hints be hiding not in the plain meaning of the words, but in the numbers and sounds, almost like code? Why does this matter? Well, it's not just about ancient word puzzles. For us, for you listening, it's a look at how cultures adapt, blend, protect their identities in subtle ways, especially under pressure or hiding in plain sight. It's asking, what do we miss when we just scratch the surface of history, or when we think language is only about words and not about, I don't know, secret handshakes in code? So what actually is the Sator Square? Picture this, a 5x5 grid made up entirely of these words: Sator, Aripo, tenet, opera, rotors. It's a palindrome, forwards, backwards, up, down, mind-bending stuff, found scrawled on walls in Pompeii. People have speculated it's a prayer, a charm, a kind of cosmic word game. But, and here's the trick, no one's ever fully agreed on what it means. Super mysterious Weaver acknowledges all that, but then goes a step further. He points out, Jewish communities did exist in Pompeii, and sometimes, when you needed to be subtle, when you couldn't express your faith openly, you got creative. You left hints, sometimes in language, sometimes, well, in numbers. Here's where things get spicy. So Jake uses a method called phonetic Hebrew, gematria. That's where, instead of just working with the Hebrew letters, you match each Latin letter to a Hebrew equivalent by sound, then total up their numeric values. The way, for example, S would map to Shin, A to Aleph, T to Tav, and so on. You add up each row and column, compare the sums, look for significant numbers that relate to Hebrew tradition, maybe things like the name of God, or significant Jewish phrases from the Torah, his findings. When he maps out the Sator Square's letters this way, the values line up, sometimes roughly, sometimes surprisingly closely, with terms from Jewish sacred texts, like you'll hit numbers linked to Yeshua HaMashiach, that's Jesus the Messiah, Bereshit bara Elohim, so in the beginning God created, and other key phrases. Now, is this coincidence? Is it intentional? Is it just, our tendency to find patterns where maybe there aren't any? That's exactly what the debate's about. And again, this isn't Richard Price saying, here's what really happened. I'm just presenting Jake's argument neutrally. He brings up the figure of Harpocrates too, which is like the Roman version of the Egyptian child god who represents keeping secrets. Harpocrates statues with finger to lips show up everywhere in Pompeii, so if you've got that sort of hush-hush motif circulating, maybe the Sator Square fits right in, whispering, not shouting, its truth. Even if the history's messier than that, it's a powerful metaphor for how minority cultures find ways to keep their stories alive without attracting too much attention. Now, honestly, I got to admit, when I first read all this stuff about numbers and grids and gematria, my brain started drifting. You know when you see one of those urban legend math things online, the ones with triangle numbers and weird birthday facts, and you get totally obsessed for like 5 minutes and forget what you were doing? Yeah, it's like that. Sorry, that's a bit of a tangent. I really love those odd connections. Not always for answers, but for the questions they generate. Anyway. Key takeaway for listeners: this isn't about proving the answer to the Sator Square. Weaver himself says it's not solved, it's shared. Instead, it's about using new lenses to re-examine old puzzles and thinking about how even the most familiar heritage can be layered, silent, subtle. Maybe it's a coded prayer. Maybe it's a number game. Maybe it's evidence of faith hidden in plain sight. Or maybe it's just, well, a great excuse to spend an afternoon thinking about ancient mysteries. So, think about what's hidden in the things you see every day. What subtle signals or quiet histories might you be missing? Don't take the paper, or me, as gospel. This is one researcher, one idea, one flashlight on a very old and beautiful enigma. Thanks as always for listening to In Depth with Academia. Stay curious, look closer, and remember, academic research is meant to spark curiosity, not close doors. Take care until next time.